I was horrible. I mean, it just was a nightmare. Brad, just destroy all those tapes if you have them. I've literally worked in every continent in the world except for Antarctica, and they're not going to have fights there. Throat cancer, might not even be able to speak. I wake up, first thing I did was, ladies and gentlemen. I've been lucky. I've been blessed, I guess.
It's difficult to get out of boxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Let's get ready to fight. Hello RTF, this is Michael Buffer and
Let's get ready to rumble!
Why you became a ring announcer, why that really started, because I know you had lots of different things beforehand. What sort of hooked you into it?
I always a fan, a long-time fan. And hardcore, just devoted to Muhammad Ali, and before that, Floyd Patterson and Sugar Ray Robinson. I'm watching the fights on a Sunday afternoon with my oldest son. A ring announcer gave a split decision where, when he gave the first two scores, he told you who won the fight. And it took away that dramatic moment where a ring announcer gets to say, and the winner, by split decision, pause, wait for it, and new, or and still, you get that great moment. And my son was about 13 then, and he had a fit. He said, man, I hate that. Why did he have to? Because it really does, it's ridiculous. I found out later ring announcers did that all the time.
Scores at 9-5, 1 even, favor of Marciano, winner by unanimous decision, and still the heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano.
But anyway, at the time, I was making a living as a model and had been in some TV commercials and that sort of thing. And I guess to a 12, 13-year-old boy, television's television, whether it's sports or whether it's a commercial. And he's like, Dad, you could do that. And I thought, well, that'd be a heck of a way to, get to sit at ringside and see the fights, which I love boxing. And I put together a resume. I might have embellished it a little bit and got my foot in the door October 1982. I was dreadful. I mean, really bad. I just would love to buy up every tape of that.
This is for 12 rounds in the lightweight division.
Brad Jacobs, who's the COO at Top Rank now, actually is the one that hired me for Alessi Promotions back then.
The first gig?
The very first gig, yeah. And I always say, Brad, just destroy all those tapes if you have them. I was horrible. I mean, it just was a nightmare. It took about 4 or 5 months, and I got my foot back in the door again and, elevated my game.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Do you think it's because of the passion you have for boxing, the sort of inner fight fan, that makes you love it so much and adore being there?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember when Sugar Ray Robinson lost the fight to Gene Fullmer, and I was in 9th grade in junior high school. And I was just so heartbroken, I could barely go to school, the following Monday. I just had that passion for certain fighters and the sport, and got my foot in the door with something that I love. Now that I'm older and more sympathetic for fighters, that I'll see a guy lose and fight his heart out, I get tears in my eyes, because I just, it's that passion that we love about boxing. And I just enjoyed every minute of it, still do. When the fighters would come to the ring with all that energy and music that we have today over the last, 40, 50 years, and it's exciting, the fans are screaming, they're excited, the fighters come in, they got their hood on, they go like this, it comes off, they love every minute of it. And then the ring announcer was killing the crowd by introducing the local commissioner, the board members, the 3 judges, which you have to introduce, referee. There were times for some of these big fights where you would introduce 19 or 20 names before the fighters. So I wanted to get the crowd back to give their heroes, or the guy they hate or whatever, to give them their reward for, coming into the fight during that introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, Let's get ready to rumble!
Was Let's Get Ready to Rumble your idea, your kids, somebody else's?
The great Muhammad Ali used to say, he would do a weigh-in and he would say, "Oh, I'm so pretty, I'm ready to rumble, rumble, young man, rumble." Ah! So that phrase was there, ready to rumble. I just started to say, let's get ready to rumble. Nothing like you hear today. A guy by the name of Jody Berry, who was many years ago a singer.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of the evening, Jody Berry.
And he was a show business guy. He used to talk like this and had these diamond cufflinks and Clark Gable mustache. Great guy. I loved him. He passed away a few years ago. And we were having drinks one night and he said, "When you say let's get ready to rumble, shut the F up." I'm like, "What are you talking about, Jody?" He says, "People want to react."
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready?
My wife, Christine, and we've been together 21 years, and she had never been to the fights before. And 21 years ago, I was saying, "Ladies and gentlemen,
Ladies and gentlemen,
let's get ready to..." She said, "Don't say ladies and gentlemen, like give it more of a big pop."
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble.
She was right. She had never even been to a fight before in her life. And she came up with that idea. So I have a little more energy when I set up, let's get ready to rumble.
But do you ever get sick of it? Sick of saying it?
No way. No.
A couple of things that stand out to you that you will always talk about until you take your last breath. Those moments. What stays with you?
You know, sometimes we have great fights that you always remember, like Barkley and Duran 20 years ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a split decision.
Tony Bellew in Liverpool, when he gets knocked down in the first round and comes back. And I know that was one of your favorite moments just by hearing your voice. And I've gone to YouTube and I've watched that 20 times at least. And that was just so exciting from beginning to end. Then sometimes we have really just dreadful fights, and then there's a great moment. And one of those is my favorite, was when 45-year-old George Foreman is fighting Michael Moorer. He's losing every minute of every round, not even a good fight, not fun to watch. And all of a sudden it's 1-2, 1-2. And he knocks him out cold for a 10 count. You can't write a script better than that. That was just a 45-year-old world champion. Amazing.
Who's your favorite fighter?
It still has to be Muhammad Ali. I can remember clear as a bell watching him on a black and white television in 1960, capturing Olympic gold in Rome, 173, 175 pounds. I was like, wow, look at this guy bouncing and pulling his head back and can't get hit. And then he turned pro and he's this brash 20-year-old with that, predicting things, and they all must fall in the round I call. And I thought, this is really exciting. And then he beats Sonny Liston and becomes heavyweight champion. And the rest, of course, is history with his stand against the Vietnam War and just all kinds of things.
It has been said that I have two alternatives: either go to jail or go to the army. But I would like to say that there is another alternative, and that alternative is justice.
Just a great story of a fantastic person. But I still believe the best fighter of all times, pure, without head and shoulders above everyone else, is still Sugar Ray Robinson. There's that famous movie Raging Bull. And they start out with the fight that Jake LaMotta beat Sugar Ray Robinson. But if you're really a boxing freak and you go and look at this, Robinson was a welterweight. LaMotta was a middleweight. But it was New York. There were a couple of guys that, you know, and they just had to fight each other because they made the deal like that. Robinson had already beaten LaMotta. Robinson was 40-0. He's 147 pounds. He's fighting a middleweight, so he loses his first fight. They fight again for the third fight 21 days later. 3 weeks later. But the week before that fight, Robinson went 10 rounds. Nobody does that today. It's impossible. I mean, you can't make this up. He came back and beat LaMotta in their third fight, and for the next over 100 fights, he went undefeated. It's like ridiculous. I mean, this is the greatest fighter in boxing history. There's no doubt about it.
The great Alexander Usyk, who has achieved so much. Where do you think he stands for you?
Isn't he a treasure outside the ring? Have you ever seen anybody so happy in his own skin? I mean, really. And yet, he's a very serious person with all the tragedy that's going on in his home country right now. He's dedicated to that. I have pictures of him over the last, 5-6 years where we're together with us, Monaco and this and that. And he's always making these faces. He's always just has this great attitude. And
let's go, Reggie Rambo!
Do you think historians will look back at him as being one of the greatest ever?
Well, so far, I think his place in history after 23 fights is guaranteed as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters ever. Undisputed cruiserweight world champion and undisputed heavyweight world champion. He's going to be recognized without a doubt as one of the greats.
What do you feel your greatest achievements?
We had the awards thing last night. I looked up the Fighters of the Year awards over the last 102 years. In the 42 years that I've been announcing, I introduced almost 40 of those fighters at various times in their career, and multiple times for many of them. I'm like, wow, I've been lucky. I've been blessed, I guess, with some really good things. Great wife, lots of dogs, nice house, and still working at 80.
And you're a fighter, I know it too. Coming back from cancer is not easy, and especially for you, throat cancer with your voice.
Again, the luck of the draw, throat cancer. I make a living with my voice, and going into surgery, I was told, there's a chance, what we have to do, you might not be able to make a living at this anymore. You might not even be able to speak. I wake up and I'm in recovery, and you get there's 4 curtains around you like that. I felt this huge bandage, of course, on my I had all my lymph nodes taken out and tonsils and all that. And first thing I did was, ladies and gentlemen, I swear to God, that's the first thing I did. I don't know. I didn't say let's get ready to rumble. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, oh shit, I can still talk. Was back to work in 30 days.
What does Michael Buffer do?
People always ask, what are your hobbies? Do you play golf? This and that. Man, I just love being home. Christine and I, we have dinner and we just we'll totally crash out in the family room with the big TV and what are we going to watch tonight? Or and dogs all over us and the cats are trying to get their spot. And there's nothing better than that. And the travel has been great and wonderful. I've literally worked in every continent in the world, except for Antarctica, and they're not going to have fights there. So I've worked in Africa and gone on safari and Siberia, and I can remember going to China 20 plus years ago with Muhammad Ali and Bob Arum and doing a show there before anybody else. And now it's a lot of work in the Middle East, and it's just still exciting.
Who's your favorite fighter that you've introduced?
There's probably a good dozen that are just like names I love saying, or fighters I loved introducing, because they would have that fan base there in attendance. AJ in Wembley.
Anthony Joshua!
the Klitschkos in Germany. They were so popular. Henry Mosca in Germany was a huge success. That was really exciting, introducing him. To this day, you know, if I'm connecting in Frankfurt or whatever, still, you know, 20 some years later, the guy in baggage or security will go like, Henry, as I'm walking through the airport. You mentioned Oscar De La Hoya. He just owned the MGM Grand, you know, and his introductions, and it was that those were great times to be able to feel that energy when you introduce a fighter. Pacquiao, when he would fight in his prime, huge surge of Filipino fans that would come in from LA and San Francisco and drive home immediately. They couldn't even afford a room in Vegas, but they came to see the Pac-Man.
How long do you want to do this?
When COVID came along, I wasn't allowed to actually come to the UK. I was doing commercials and movies, and this stuff came up in Riyadh season, and His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. It's like a whole new era of boxing. I'll stick around and enjoy it. If it gets to be problematic, I'll be happy with the dogs and cats and Christine.
It's difficult to get out of boxing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Something that you would have wished you could have announced. What would it have been at one, if you could go back in history and just say, I would have loved to have done that one?
But I've never done a Super Bowl. That's the one thing I'd like to do. I've done everything else, so I haven't done it.
Michael, what's left on the bucket list?
Yeah, just a few more fights. You know, a few more, maybe another year.
Do you think there's anyone that can step into your shoes?
When I started doing this, it wasn't like I was trying to bring attention to myself. And now I see ring announcers doing like soliloquies in the ring, practically, you know, and it's maybe a little overkill. Just come up with something that, you know, the main thing is you want to get the crowd amped up to introduce the fighters. So.
And be yourself?
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I've loved it.
It's always a pleasure. And it's great to have you on board with Ready to Fight. It's fantastic.
Let's get ready to fight.